All right, recording now. So, all right, I guess we broke the trend. Okay, all right. So let's go back to Mishneh Torah. Oopsies. Hakdama. Mitzvos Aseh, and we are up to 39, I believe. Hold on, let me just move this around. The zoom is at the wrong place. Put this up there. Move this. Okay, whatever. Maybe that was the right place. Okay, so 30. Sorry, hold on. I'm having issues. Okay, 39. We did, yeah. No, we didn't do this. Yeah, lahakri tamidim b'chol yom, to offer the continual offerings each day. Shnemar shenaim liyom ola samid, to each day an ola of a continual ola offering. All right, lahakriv kohen gadol mincha b'chol yom, that the kohen gadol should be makriv and mincha every day. See, that's another thing that, again, I think this is just, shnemar zeh korban aharon avanav. This is something that I'm just woefully ignorant of, right? Like, if you ask me who's makriv a mincha, I would say kohanim. I had no idea it's the kohen gadol. Is that even is that like common knowledge that I just missed out on?
I did not know that.
Okay, let me just quickly look at the Sefer Mitzvos just to see if he says anything there. Hativish needs to be on the shiakar kohen gadol b'chol yom tamid. Mincha baboker ben ha'arba'im. V'hi nikras chavite kohen gadol. Nikras gamkein minchas kohen mashiach. No clue about this. No clue whatsoever. All right, I guess kohen gadol has a special mincha. I knew Sota has a special mincha, but I didn't know the kohen gadol does. All right.
I'm still not convinced that this actually exists.
Yeah, let me look at the footnoted version and just see if maybe he has a footnote that says this.
But it has not. Right. Oh, never mind.
Let's see. Was this number 40? 40. Yeah, no footnote here. Okay. Yeah. All right. I guess it exists. All right. 41. Lahosif korban acher b'chol Shabbos. See, now that's very interesting, right? Not so it's not lahakriv musaf Shabbos. It's lahosif korban acher b'chol Shabbos. Interesting framing there. Not that there's a problem with that. It's just that I would think it's to be makriv and musaf. In fact, let me just quickly look at the how does he say it in between the musafin. Let's see here. Avoda Tamidim umusafin. Yeah, see here he says, excuse me, Musaf Rosh Hashanah, Musaf Pesach. Oh, sorry, no. Well, Ches, he's interesting. For Ches, he says Lahosif Shnei Kavasim Olos B'Shabbos, and then for the other Musafin, it looks like he says he calls it a Musaf. What is the pattern in the Mishnah in the Minyan and Mitzvos? But here it looks like he says Lahosif for all of them. See, I was going to say that maybe someone mentioned this earlier. I don't know if it was this year or another year, that the Musaf of Shabbos really is like conceptually just double Tamid, it's an extra Tamid. So I was going to say maybe that's why he differentiates, but the fact that he says the other Musafim are, Lahosif, I don't have an answer now. Okay. Membeis, Lahosif, korban b'chol rosh chodesh v'chodesh, shnemar uvrosh chodshechem, mem gimel lahosif korban b'chag ha-pesach, shnemar shivas yamim takrivu ishe l'Hashem. So that's the korban, that's not the korban Pesach, that's the musaf of Pesach. Mem dalad lahakriv minchas ha-omer mimocharas rishon shel Pesach im keves echad. So to be makriv the mincha of the omer on the day after the first day of Pesach with one keves. Shnemar vevesemes omer. Hold on, I just got a WhatsApp. I just want to see if that is Zev. No, it's not. Okay. All right. Anyway, mem he lahosif korban biyom atzeres, to have a musaf of the day of atzeres. So here the day of atzeres is referring to Shavuos. Shnemar ovim habikurim v'hikravtem ola. Mem vav lahavi shtei halechem im hakorbanos hakarevim beglal halechem biyom atzeres, to bring the shtei lechem with the korbanos that are brought on behalf of the lechem on the day of Atzeres. Right, so that's from your dwellings you shall bring the bread of waving and you shall offer the bread. You shall offer them upon the bread. So that's why he combines it with the bread there, because the pasuk does. Mem zayin lahosif korban b'rosh hashana shnemar u'v'chodesh hashvi bechad lachodesh v'asisim ola. Mem ches lahosif korban biyom hatzom shnemar u'v'asor lachodesh hashvi. Oh, one second here. I just realized. Okay, so this is an interesting thing. Everything he's brought has been from Pinchas, except for what do you call it? The Musaf of Pesach and the Omer. Now the Omer, I think, is not in. I mean, the Omer, the address of the Omer is in Parshas Emor, but it's interesting that he doesn't quote the Musaf of Pesach from Parshas Pinchas. Let me just make sure that there's nothing funky going on there with that Musaf. I'm pretty sure there is. It says it there. Okay, Bamidbar. Yeah. Uvachamisha. Well, let's see. I shouldn't say yeah prematurely. This is Uvachodesh Harishon Arbasar Yom Lachodesh Pesach Lashem Uvachamisha Yom Lachodesh Zachag Shivas Yom Matzos Yachal V'Yom Rishon Mikra Kodesh Kol Lachazad Bel Chasuvi Kravdem Ishe Ola Lashem Parim Bnei Vakar Shnaim V'Aylachad V'Shiva Kvasim Bnei Shana Tmimim Yulachem. Yeah, so that's the Musaf of Pesach. So I don't know why by the Korban Pesach he goes to Emor. And let's just look at Emor and see if the other Musafim are mentioned. I'm pretty sure they're not. Well, let's look at Shavuos. No, okay. Yeah, I mean the other Musafin are not mentioned. Certainly not consistently. Yeah, so that's weird. Don't know what to make of that. Okay, onward. Lahakriv, no, we did that already. Memzayin, yeah, lahosif korban rosh Hashanah shnemar u'v'chodesh hashavi bechad lachodesh v'asisim ola. Lahosif korban biyom hatzom shnemar v'asor lachodesh hashvi'i. Lasos avodas yom hayom biyom hatzom. Okay, now this is an interesting thing. Okay, because he says the avodas yom kippurim here, so he interrupts. Let's read it first of all. To do the avodas hayom on the yom tzom shnemar bezos yavo Aaron. With this Aaron shall come, umeis adas b'nei Israel, from the assembly of b'nei Israel. V'chol avoda haksuva b'parshas acharemos, and do all the avoda in parshas acharemos. Then he resumes the musafim. Lahozif korban b'chag hasukos shnemar v'kravtem ola ishe. That's the Musafim of Sukkos. Then Lahosif Korban Biyom Shmini Atzeres Shiyomze Regal Bifnei Atmo. Okay, because this day is a regal on its own. That's just explaining why it has its own Musaf and is not just part of the mitzvah of Musaf of Sukkos. Shnemar Oviyom Hashemini Atzeres. Yeah. So what's interesting about this is, he interrupts the list of Musafim to mention the Avodas Hayom. Now, you could say that. And he doesn't interrupt any of the other things with special mitzvos for those days. Now, you could say, well, it's because the Yom Kippurim is the only one that has a special avoda. So maybe, but why, for example, doesn't he mention the Korban Pesach? You know, that's like a special thing that's done on, I guess not on Pesach, but for Pesach. He also, I guess you can say that he mentions the, it's weird that he mentions the Minchas HaOmer, but you could say though that that's part of the Musaf because it's mentioned or it's associated with Musaf because it's mentioned in Parshas Pinchas. So not saying that this is inherently problematic, but it is eyebrow raising at least. Okay. All right, now it looks like he goes to the regalim in general. Lachog b'regalim, to celebrate or to, this is a term. I coined this term. I also heard Rabbi Zucker use it because lachog in Torah Peh, interpretation of Torah means to bring the chagiga. So we wanted to find a term that is not just to celebrate. So the word is festivate, which sounds like a festering wound, but to festivate on the regalim, which means to bring a festival offering. Shnemar shalosh regalim tachog li. You shall festivate 3 pilgrimage festivals for me. Then leheraos regalim, to appear on the regalim. Shnemar shalosh regalim bashana yira'eh kol zechurcha. Each of your 3 times a year, each of your males shall appear. So that is a reference to the olas re'iyah, and then lismoch regalim, to rejoice on the regalim. That's a reference. Shnemar v'samachta b'chagecha. You should rejoice on your chag. That's a reference to the shalmei simcha. So it is interesting here also that, I mean, this is consistent with the Minyan and Mitzvos, but I think actually, with the koseres. We'll check in a second, but everything he's described so far that's a korban, he calls it a korban. Here he uses the lashon of the pasuk, which is you shall festivate, you shall appear, and you shall rejoice. He doesn't say lahakriv, chagiga, korban chagiga, or like olas re'iyah, Let's just see what the Rambam says there. This would be in Hilchos Chagiga, right? Or sorry, hold on just a second here. What am I saying? Where would we find this? Am I going to reveal my ignorance here? Sefer Korbanos, is it? Yeah, okay. Do you know the difference between Sefer Avoda and Sefer Korbanos?
No.
So Sefer Avoda is Korbanos of the Tzibur, and Sefer Korbanos is Korbanos of the Yachid. Handy distinction to know about. So this is in Chagiga. Yeah, so here he also says the same thing, right? He says, he puts it in a different order though. Leheraos panei Hashem, to make an appearance in the presence of Hashem. Lachog b'shalosh regalim, to festivate on the 3 regalim, and then l'smoch regalim. Yeah, interesting. I don't know why he goes re'iyah. So here he goes re'iyah, chagiga, simcha, and then in the Minyan and Mitzvos he goes. Oh wait, is that the same thing? No, he goes chagiga. Right, chagiga then re'iyah, simcha. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, so these we'll call it the mini mysteries of the Minyan and Mitzvos, because there's the big mysteries like the ordering, and then there are these like little ones that just come up from the nuances. All right, 56. We've covered more than we have in the other 2 days so far. Lechol basar, lishchot keves hapesach, shnemar ushachtu oso kol kahal adas Yisrael, to slaughter the paschal lamb, as it says, they shall slaughter it, the entire congregation of the Assembly of Israel. Lechol basar pesach b'leil chamisha asar, to eat the meat of the Pesach on the night of the 15th. Shnemar, as it says, v'achlos basar b'leil hazeh, you shall eat the meat of that. You should eat that meat on this night. Nun zayin lasos pesach sheni, to make a pesach sheni. Shnemar b'chodesh hasheni ba'avra asar, in the 2nd month on the 14th of the month. For 58, lechol pesach bo, to eat a pesach on the night of pesach sheni. Shnemar al matzos umorim yochluhu, on matzos and morim you shall eat it. Okay, this might be a different change now. Let's see. Nuntes litkoa b'chatzotros al hakorbanos uv'shas atzaros. Oh, so this is another, not quite as drastic as the Hilchos Ava one that we did yesterday, but this is another one where his formulation of the mitzvos is radically different. Okay, so here you have litkoa b'chatzotros al hakorbanos uv'shas atzaros. So to sound a blast, a tekiah blast, on the trumpets over the korbanos and at the time of tsaros, of catastrophes. Shnemar, as it says, utkatem b'chatzotros, as it says, you shall sound a tekiah on the chatzotros. Okay. However, if you go to the place where he codifies this, first of all, he does not codify it in Sefer Avoda or in Sefer Korbanos. He mentions the halachos, but he doesn't allocate the mitzvah there. He puts it in Sefer Zmanim, in Hilchos Tainios, and in Hilchos Tainios, first of all, he does not call it Hilchos Chatzotros. He calls it Hilchos Tainios. And he formulates it as mitzvah say lizok lifnei Hashem b'chol eis tzara gedola shetavo ahat tzibor, to cry out before Hashem with at every time of great catastrophe that befalls the tzibor. So it doesn't even mention the trumpets and doesn't mention the korbanos. Okay, rather he frames it in terms of za'aka. And then in the first halacha, when he says the mitzvah, here's what he says here. He says, mitzvah saseh min Torah lizok ulaharia b'chatzotros al kol tzara shetava al tzibor. So it's a positive mitzvah to cry out in tefillah and to sound a chavurah on the chavurot over every catastrophe that befalls the tzibor. So very different, right? Here, there's no mention of tekiah and no mention of korbanos. And in the koseres, there's no mention of chavurot or korbanos, or trua. There's just za'aka, and then in the Minyan and Mitzvos, he classifies it not with the other Mitzvos of Sefer Zmanim, but with the korbanos as part of the Mikdash groupings, and he mentions tekiah and doesn't mention za'aka. So there you go, huge difference. Oh, and let's while we're at it, look at the Sefer Mitzvos. What number was that? 59. So Sefer Mitzvos, he says, Isaac, did you drown in the food cupboard?
What?
No, I'm eating right now.
Oh, you're eating. Okay. Yeah, Chaim, what were you gonna say?
I was hearing what the question was.
Oh, okay. No, Isaac just said earlier that his camera was off because he was looking for food, and so I thought, oh, you're looking for food this whole time. All right. Hatzivui shnis tavinu litkoa b'chatzotros b'mikdash be'es hakravas kol korban mikorbanos haprakim. So the commandment to sound the chatzotros in the mikdash at the time of the bringing of every korban from the periodical korbanos. Hu amro yisala uvim simchaschem uvumodechem uvroshe chachechem utkatem b'chatzotros. Ferush amro shemitzos hayom b'chatzotros v'kas ukvar nisbaru dinim mitzozo b'sifrei uvrosh hashana v'tainos ki anu mitzuvim litko b'chatzotros b'zman atzaros v'haraos kish nizak elav yisale ka'amar v'chisavo milchama b'artzchem. So here it's even worse, right? Because here he makes the entire mitzvah to seem like it's about the korbanos, the chatzotros at the time of korbanos. And he mentions the zaka, but not that that's part of the mitzvah. It's like when you do zaka, then you should sound the trumpets at the time of tzaros. Sorry, when you do zaka at the time of tzaros, then you should sound the trumpets. So he relegates it to the backdrop. Yeah, so big mystery here. By the way, just to frame, sometimes articulating there's two reasons why. Let me back up for 1 second. As a teacher, I often like to articulate the goals and objectives in what we're doing. Part of it is to be able to accomplish it, okay? Like in the future, like to know what you're accomplishing or what you're seeking to accomplish. But the other thing is that, like, if you articulate a goal, it becomes a category in your mind, which you can then reference later on. So what I mean by that is, let's say I had not told you that we are going to make it a goal to compare the 4 formulations of the Rambam in the Sefer Mitzvos, the Minyan Mitzvos, the Koseres, and the first halacha. So if I didn't do that, it would kind of feel like we're doing a haphazard looking around. So now that I've articulated it, what this is going to do, hopefully, is like, let's say sometime years down the line, you take up the sugya of chatzotros, either in Torah Sheba'al Peh or Talmud or in Torah Sheba'al. So because we went through this process and we articulated it as a goal and noted that there are these problems with the Rambam's formulation, your mind is going to be much more likely to remember that and to make recourse to it when you're doing the sugya in the future. So that's a reason why, if it seems like I keep on verbalizing the goals, that's another reason why I do that, just to keep on reinforcing that this is a process of like understanding the mitzvos that's relevant to like our future learning. Okay. Oh, so anyway, it looks like that was a category. Okay, so we've had categories, right? Just to state this clearly here. So we had, yeah.
No, we're not thinking on what the halacha or what the mitzvah or it's not like your mitzvahs. Oh,
your audio just went funny there. Say it one more time.
Sorry. I'm not. It was a little unclear to me what exactly the mitzvah is in Nun Tes.
Nun Tes.
It sounds Tes. It sounds like two mitzvahs to me.
Yeah, right. I think that's part of the problem here, right? Is that it's 2 or 3, because the two I assume that you meant are the chavurah and the zaka.
Yeah.
Right, and then within the chavurah, there's chavurah at over the korbanos, and then chavurah be'es tzara. Or you could categorize it as there's the element of this mitzvah of es tzara, and then the element of korbanos. And so yeah, it's difficult, and also thematically it's difficult because the use of the chavurah and es tzara is expressing zaka and trua, which is crying, which is sad, whereas on the tkios in the korbanos it's simcha. So like even thematically they're not related. So you've got, not only does it sound like multiple mitzvos, but it's sefer, avoda, korbanos, mikdash, happy, and then sefer zmanim, sad, crying. So very difficult to know what this mitzvah is in the unity. This is one of my pet mitzvahs, by the way, the chavurah. That's a mitzvah that I come back to from time to time. It's fun to think about, but yeah, I don't know the answer to that. Yeah, I haven't cracked that nut yet. So if you just said something now your audio and your video are, well, your video is frozen and your audio was choppy. And now if you're talking, I can't hear you. So I don't know if it's you or me, but I'm gonna proceed as if my internet's fine. We'll see what happens. Interrupt me though if you have a question or a comment. Oh, I can hear noises now. Oh, now I can see a chat. Internet. Okay, fine.
Yeah, I hear you totally.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So Samich, Lihios, Kol Korbanos Behema, Miyom Shmini Vahala. That all the korbanos of behema should be from the 8th and on. Shnamar Miyom Hashmini Vahala. Okay. Another Busha moment. No idea what that's talking about. Anyone have an idea what that's talking about? All right, let's go to our footnote. Which one is that? That was Samech. Okay, footnote doesn't explain. So let's go to the Sefer Mitzvos. He hatzivo shenistavino sheyehe kol korban shenakriv mina behema. Oh, ben shmona yamim ulmal. Okay, I do know what this is talking about. I thought it was like the 8th day, and I was trying to figure out the 8th day of what. So meaning, you should be makriv it from when it is 8 days old and older. V'lo pachas mizeh, not less than this. V'zo hi mitzvos mechuser zman begufo. Okay, that's a category I'm not familiar with, but I can infer what it means. It's the mitzvah of it lacking time in its body, meaning it's physically like underdeveloped. So it should be for 7 days under its mother, and from the 8th day and onward, it will be favorable as a korban. This is also repeated. Should spend 7 days with its mother. Side point here, which is a good example of. Rambam will sometimes quote in the Sefer Mitzvos multiple psukim for one mitzvah. And we've also seen him do that in the Minyan, the Mitzvos versus the halachos. And it's important to note that it's not like the Rambam goes with whatever comes first is the primary one. Because you see here, he he quotes Vaya Shivas Yamim Tachazimos, that's in Vayikra Chaf Beis. And he says, the tzivui has been repeated in another language, Vu Amro, Shivas Yamim Yihye Im Imo, and that's in Parshas Mishpatim. So he calls it that one the repeated one, even though it came earlier. So just note that the Rambam does quote multiple sources, and he sometimes says that they're equal, and sometimes implies that one is more primary than the other. So, and they're not necessarily following the order. Okay, Samech Tes, Leos Kol Korban Behema Tamim, that the korban of every behema should be tamim is blemish free. Shneimar tamim yihi l'ratzon. It should be blemish free for favor. That's referring to physical blemishes. Physical imperfections. Samach beis limloach kol korban, to salt every korban. Shneimar al kol korban takriv melach. Over each of your korbanos you shall be makriv melach. I never noticed this before. This is not really a point on the Rambam, but on the pasuk, I didn't notice that it uses the lashon of hakrava for the melach. You should be makriv melach on your korban. Like I always thought of melach as an accompaniment, not an object of hakrava. So again, maybe that's my ignorance in korbanos. Okay, samach gimel maaseh haola. Shnemar im ola korban. So the procedure of the ola. Now I believe this is this the first formulation that we've read that is not stated in the infinitive form of the verb. I believe everything that has been lishmor, lichtov, levarech. So this is a subcategory of mitzvos that the Rambam has throughout the Mishneh Torah of procedures. Maaseh ha'ola, shnemar imola korban, maaseh ha'chatas, shnemar zos toras ha'chatas, maaseh ha'ashem, shnemar zos toras ha'ashem, maaseh zevach ha'shlamim, shnemar zos toras zevach ha'shlamim, maaseh ha'mincha, shnemar v'nefesh ki sakri mincha korban. So korban mincha. So that's not a discrete action, but that when you do an ola, let's say, for example, we had a mitzvah earlier of the olas re'iyah. So the mitzvah is to be makriv the re'iyah, but then doing it according to its procedure is being makayim this other mitzvah, which is maaseh ha'ola, and that's going to be general. Okay, I don't know why he chooses to put some of them in the infinitive and some of them not. I mean, here it makes sense because chatas is not a particular korban; it's a mode of korbanos, which there are many chatos and many olos, whereas there's only like one re'iyah. You know, like you have to do the olos re'iyah, so maybe that's why. Is there anything we need to translate? Oh, just basic translation stuff, right? Ola is, I know our school translates it as elevation offering. So that's one translation. The other one is burnt offering because it goes up in smoke. Chata, sin offering. Asham, guilt offering. Zevach shlamim. Zevach is another word for korban, right? So a peace offering or peace sacrifice. Mincha is a flour offering. The word mincha is, anyone know what the word mincha literally means? Because it comes up in this week's parsha. While you think about it, let me open up the
Place? To place?
To place, interesting. Are you getting that from like lahaniach?
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone says that. That's possible. In fact, did I show you my new Shorashim dictionary? No? Oh, let me just go get this. I've been trying to take it for a spin. Hold on. I also want to excuse myself, by the way. You might get the impression from all of the classes I give that I buy a lot of books because I care about them a lot. I bought a ton of books in my first and second years of yeshiva. Then I went extremely frugal and only bought books that I know that I'm going to use like constantly. And then for some reason just this year, I've been buying more books. Maybe because I'm teaching a bunch of new shirim, and also this is like yeshiva level shirim as opposed to high school, and maybe I feel like I need more stuff. So don't want to give the impression that I'm just willy-nilly buying books, but this looked like it'd be helpful. So I can't testify about it on a first-hand basis yet because I haven't used it enough, but it's a Shorashim dictionary by someone named Rabbi Nehorai Kotkin, and you know that you're authoritative when you have a Gaonim name like Nehorai. But he apparently what he does is he cites the translations of the Shorashim, but also references you to the Rishonim or the Mefarshim who give those meanings. So let me first look up mem, because Isaac, when you said lahaniach, it's very hard because you've got nun vav ches, then you've got nun che he, and then I don't even know if mem nun ches is one. So let me look up first, and I always get them mixed up here. So let me first look up nun vav ches is to settle upon, to leave, go, forsake, abandon, to rest, restore, regenerate, and to redeem and to reward. Okay, so that's not what we're talking about. Then nun che he, sorry, nun ches he, I mean, is to lead, to bring to a goal, to accede, A-C-C-E-D-E, and to satisfy or bring relief. And then, interesting, so the shorish, according to this guy, the shorish of mincha is either manach, mem nun ches, or nun ches ches, like reach nichoach. So that's interesting. So he translates it as donate temple offering, grain offering, give willingly. That's one set of definitions. Pay homage. That's another one. Please or satisfy, and then pacify. So my understanding of it, of mincha, is it is to bring a tribute. That a mincha is a gift that's given not to benefit the other person, but to demonstrate like kavod, like a tribute to the Caesar or to the king. Like you give him the gift, not because he needs gifts, but because he's a king who is deserving of honor. So let me just, while we're here, I just wanted to see this. So this is the first time we have a mincha, which is Cain, right? I always feel kind of bad for Cain because he killed his brother, but I also feel bad for him because he doesn't get credit for, if you just plain shot based on Torah Bechsav, he invented korbanos, right? I mean, I know Chazal say that like Adam Harishon, was makri korbanos, but from the Torah Bechsav, then he came up with the idea of korbanos, and like he doesn't get any credit for that. In fact, his is not accepted because it was inferior. But good idea, Cain. So I just want to see if anyone explains. Okay, so I'm not gonna touch that with a 10-foot pole. I'm just trying to find where I'm not looking at all the definitions. I just want to see where the one that I had was. Oh, so I mean, this is not the source of it, but Rav David Zvi Hoffman says it's from Lashon Menach, Litain Matana, so it's a gift. And he says also Hishve Lahalan Lamed Beis Yodalet Bechukas Korbanos Hari Hora Asa Shal Mincha Korban Solas Davka Kan Leumazos. Oh, see, I'm learning something new now here also. Here, in contrast to that, Nikra Gam Korban Minachai Zeshel Hevel B'Shem Mincha V'Ulai Kach Mishum Shehevel Lo Shachat Es Korbanosov El Hevim Matana Bilvad. Okay, so that's interesting. So he's theorizing that maybe because this was hold on. No, never mind. I'm misunderstanding him. I thought he was saying that this is called mincha because it was not brought from a living thing, but it looks like he's saying the opposite. But he's saying because he didn't shecht it. Yeah, I'm not sure. Okay, anyway, the point I wanted to make though is that my understanding of the word mincha is that it's a tribute. It's a gift that's given not for the benefit of the recipient, but to show kavod. So why that's attached specifically to soles, I'm not sure. Okay.
Which korban is considered to be a gift that God would need?
Good question. None of them, right? So you're essentially asking, why wouldn't you call everything a mincha? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why we don't refer to other korbanos or elements of the korban as a mincha. I guess it's kind of bound up in that question about why we only call this one mincha. Yeah, you're right. We don't bring.
Do we eat from this one? Is this maybe it's the only one we don't eat from?
It's a good question. I don't know enough to know that. I don't know enough about korbanos to make a statement about whether or not. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we don't eat. So this is not the only one that we don't eat. But like, for example, like we don't drink the nesachim. We pour it on the mizbeach. And same thing with an ola. But yeah, don't know. We'll have to keep that as a question. So then Chaim typed in, because of internet reasons, why not put avoda Yom Kippurim as ma'aseh instead of the infinitive? Yeah, I was thinking that also. Avoda Yom Kippurim. Yeah, you could. Yeah, ma'aseh avoda Yom Kippurim. Yeah, it's interesting. I had a thought. What did you just say? La avoda Yom Kippurim. La asos avoda Yom Kippurim Yom Tzon. Yeah, it's fine. He does use lashon of ma'aseh, right? Just not as a noun. Yeah, don't know. Yeah, good question. Okay, where are we now? So all of these things have been, so this last group, so we had the Musafim, we had the Korbanos of the Regalim, and then the specific Korbanos of Pesach, which is a unique category of the Korbanos of the Regalim. Then it looks like we have, how would you characterize from Nun Tes through Samech Zion? I feel like that's a category. What would you say? I would call it mitzvos of procedural korbanos mitzvos, right? That these are not in reference to any specific korban, but these have to do with the procedure of korbanos in general. So I think that's a distinct category. Okay. 68. Lahakriv beis din korban im tau bahora'ah, that beis din has to bring a korban if they err in psak. Shnemar im kol das Yisrael yishku, if the entire assembly of Israel errs. 69. Lahakriv hayachid korban chatas im shagag b'mitzvos los aseh shechayavin aleha kares. So that the yachid should bring a korban chatas if he erred, if he sinned unintentionally in the mitzvos los aseh, they are chayav kares on. Shnemar nefesh kisechata, when a nefesh sins, right? So that's the rule in general. If that something is chayav kares, but you violated b'shogeg, then you bring a chatas. Then lahakriv hayachid korban im. Oh, by the way, just a general fact about korbanos, which I guess I should mention. I mean, I don't know what to mention in this and not, but like, I feel like I've talked to a lot of people who have not been familiar with korbanos and are not aware of the fact that by and large, you only bring korbanos on chet b'shogeg. There are not korbanos for mazid, for intentional sins. There are a few exceptions, but generally speaking, you don't bring korbanos for that.
Okay. Do you ever bring a korban for a mazid?
I know where to find the answer. I don't. Hold on. I want to say the Sefer Chinuch. Let me just look in the Sefer Chinuch and see if I'm imagining it. Okay, I think this is going to be Sefer Chinuch mitzvah 20 or 21 or something like that. Or maybe no. It's going to be in oh wait, let me look here. Al Torah. Let's just go to the Sifriya Kalim. Okay, Sefer Mitzvos. Sefer HaChinuch. No Bahag. Sefer, did I miss it? Sefer Chinuch. Oh, annoying. Can't go by Parsha. Is it 29? No, it's in the beginning of Truma. So here we're in the Seres Dibros. Oh, this is gonna be after Mishpatim. What am I saying? It's way later. I'll have to get back to you on that, Isaac. I'll try to remember. I think you mentioned a couple, but it's not that many, if any, if I'm even remembering it correctly. Okay. Where are we here? We're at 70. Lahakriv hayachid korban im nistapek lo im chata b'chet shechayav alav chatas o lo chata. That a yachid should bring a korban if he is in doubt as to whether he sinned a sin that he would be chayav a korban on or not. Shneimar v'lo yadav ashem v'hevi es ashamo v'zehu anikra asham talui. Yeah, so this is called a contingent asham. Oh, sorry, I didn't translate it. As it says, and he did not know and he incurred guilt. He shall bring his guilt offering. So that's called an asham talui. Anyone notice? Well, actually, I guess only Isaac was. I don't know how many of you have. Chaim, have you ever davened with us on Yom Kippurim in yeshiva? No. Okay, so Isaac. Okay, so I guess question for anyone: do you know what change we make in the Al Chet about the Asham?
I didn't know change.
So it's, I guess Rabbi Har didn't do it, but if you hear Festel do it, then he changes it. So one of the standard nusach says Al Chet shechanal lefnecha. Wait, let me. I I forgot the lashon. Hold on. Oh, al chet shechayavim alehem asham talui vadai v'talui. Okay, so that's where it says in the Siddur asham vadai v'talui. So Fistell's holds that you do al chet shechayavim alav asham vadai v'asham talui, because there's no such thing as an asham vadai v'talui. Okay, so grammatically, it's accurate to say asham vadai v'asham talui. So again, I don't know if that's Fistell's own grammatical change, because I know he does that sometimes, or if that's like an actual nusach of the of the text. All right. Anyway, just wanted to mention that because he mentioned asham talui. Okay. 71. Lahakriv hashogeg b'mi'ila o hachote b'gzela o b'shifcha charufa o shekafar b'pikadon v'nishba korban asham v'zeho nikra asham vadai. Right. So that is an asham vadai. So it's on. This is a question I have no clue about, but I have wondered before. These are the things that you bring an asham vadai on. Okay, vadai on. So it's if you are shogeg in me'ila, right? So if you are neheneh from hekdesh b'shogeg, o hachote b'gzela, okay, or a shifcha charufa, or you deny a pikadon and you swear about it. So let's say like I'm borrowing, have money that's yours that I'm holding on to, and you ask me if I have it, and I deny it, and I give a shvu on it. So then that's a specific korban. What's the unity of those? I don't know, but that's an asham vadai, which, by the way, is another. Yeah.
Are they all Mishori?
They all are. So this is one that's mazid. Shekafar b'pikadon v'nishba. I believe that's a mazid one. Shavuos ha'pikadon. Or sorry, is that what you call Shavuos ha'pikadon? That's hold on. Lo sechachashu. I think this is the issue of lo sechachashu, of don't deny falsely. I don't remember. Isaac, are you holding in hafla'ah? Sefer hafla'ah in its entirety?
No.
No, okay.
I don't know what this is.
Yeah. That might be b'mezid. Not sure. Let's just look at the Sefer Mitzvos really quickly and see if he gives. Let's see. Look at that. Even he acknowledges that it's miscellaneous. Shekol ha'over averus misuyamos. Yakriv korban asham v'yiskaper lo. V'zehu asham vadai. So he doesn't even. He just says specific averos. Haver shechayavin alehen korban zehin mi'ila ugazela ushchiva im hashifcha charufa v'sheker b'shavuos hapikadon. Kohal mo'il b'shogeg v'hushi yehane b'shav pruta mina hekdesh bin hakodesh bergabayis. Sorry, hekdesh bergabayis u'bin hekdesh mizbeach. Oha gozel chaver b'shav pruta u'lamala v'nishba. See, so my memory is telling me that this is mazid. Your gozel b'shav pruta from your chaver, and you swear.
Yeah, these are mazid.
Yeah.
Here this is mazid.
Haba al shifcha charufa bein b'shogeg bein b'mazid. Or kover b'pikadon v'nishba bein b'shogeg bein b'mezid. Harizeh chayav lahakriv korban al chataso ve'eno korban chatas ela korban asham v'korin korban zeh asham vadai. Yeah, so these are the ones I was trying to remember. By the way, is these specific instances of zadon. I think these are the ones I know of that you bring a korban on. Yeah, interesting. And interesting also that asham is associated with not knowing whether you sinned and then doing these specific sins b'mezid. Like, is there a unity in the asham, such that like you would think there's a unity in this, but is there unity in asham in general? Don't know. Okay. Ayin Beis 72. Lahakriv korban olav yored. So I think they call this a variable korban, right? That it goes up and down in value. Shnemar v'imlo sagia yado, if your hand does not attain. V'imlo tasi yado, if your hand cannot grasp or cannot reach. So in other words, this is like if you can't afford something, then you bring a lesser korban. If you would ask me which korbanos are you free to do this with, I wouldn't have an answer because I don't know korbanos. I like the only one I know of is the ola of a ger. I think I know that because I owe one. Let me just make sure that that's true.
Also the korban for a Mitzvah when he's
Oh yes,
Mitaher.
that's true. That's true. Yeah, yeah. I do. I forgot that, but I did remember. I do remember that one now. Easter Bia. Oh, hello, Isaac. Welcome. Thank you for making an appearance. You know, by the way, that if Mashiach comes during COVID, then people are going to make Olas Re'ia Zoom jokes. I'll be forced to do that.
Yeah.
Making an appearance. All right.
I think your putter of your camera is broken.
Yeah. Yeah, that counts as a summa, right? As right. Hold on a second. Ola. Yeah, here we go. Yeah. Umahu korban hager, olas behema, o shte torim o shne beyona, ushneim ola. So it's a behema or it's a dove and a turtle dove if you can't afford it. Yeah. Yeah. So that's a category of korban, not a specific korban. Okay. 73. Oh, here we go. This is another mystery and another contentious issue. Lihizvados lifnei Hashem mikol chet shiaseh ha'adam b'shas hakorban v'shelo b'shas hakorban shneimar v'hizvado es chatosam asher asu. So to confess before Hashem from every chet that a person did at the time of bringing the korban and not at the time of bringing the korban. As it says, they shall confess their sin that they did. So this is the mitzvah of vidui, right? And I know Rav Pesach gave a shir on this earlier in the year, that this is another one of these like puzzles about how does the Rambam define this mitzvah. So for example, in Hilchos Tshuva, this is a famous Rambam here. So first of all, he calls it Hilchos Tshuva. He doesn't call it Hilchos Vidui. Secondly, he puts it in Sefer Hamada. He doesn't put it in Sefer Avoda or Sefer Korbanos. Thirdly, he says the Koseres is Shiyashuv hachote mecheto lifnei Hashem v'yisvadeh. That the sinner should return from his chet before Hashem and confess. So it makes it sound like teshuva and vidui are the mitzvah. And then in the first halacha, kol ha-mitzvah shebetorah bein aseh bein lo aseh im avar adam al achaz mehen bein bezadam bein mishgaga kishiyaseh teshuva v'yashuv mecheto chayav lihizvados lifnei hakel baruch hu. So all of the mitzvahs of the Torah, whether aseh or lo aseh, if a person transgresses one of them, whether intentionally or unintentionally, when he does tshuva and returns from his sin, he's chayav to confess before God. So that makes it sound like vidui is the mitzvah. And he even says here, zev vidui dvarim, uvidui zeh mitzvah to say. So it makes it sound like vidui is the mitzvah. And Rav Chaim famously said, according to the conventional understanding of that Rav Chaim, that tshuva is that the Ma'aseh mitzvah is vidui and the tshuva and tshuva is the kiyum mitzvah, or tshuva is the machai. I should have quoted the Rav Chaim if I don't know it, but he tries to reconcile it, saying that both of them are components of the mitzvah. If you look at this, if the Sefer Mitzvos, it's clear that the Rambam has a series of hava aminas about like they're odd hava aminas about like you might think that you're chayav. Let's read it while we're here. This is Bekius here. Hu atzivush nitzavinu. Lahodos b'chataim. See, whenever I know the Rambam, then I get bothered by the translation that I'm not used to. I'm going to do this other translation. Pardon my my pickiness. Yeah, okay. My translation says like this: Hamitzvah hashalosh v'shivim hutzivush needs to be lihisvados. So we are chayav to confess over the sins that we sinned before him, may he be exalted, verbally. At the time that we do tshuva from them. This is the vidui. The inyano and its content, shiomar, as a person should say, Ana Hashem, I beseech you. It's funny he says Hashem. Does he say that on this one? Yeah, Hashem, right? Chatasi avisi pshati. I sinned unintentionally, intentionally, and rebelliously. Vasisi kach v'kach, and I've done such and such. V'yarchiv es hadibur v'yivakish kapara b'inyan zeh kfi tachas lashano. And he should expand upon this verbally and ask for atonement on this matter according to the eloquence of his tongue. So he should formulate according to his own thing. Okay, now he says like this. Da, ki afilu hakatayim shechayavim alehem mine hakorbanos halalu shekadam tiuran asher amar yisala shemishi hikriv niskaper lo tzarich al kopanim gam lihisvados im hakravasan. So you should know that even those sins that a person is obligated to bring, the types of korbanos that we described earlier, God said about which God said that if you bring them, then you get kapara. Nevertheless, a person still needs to be mizvada on them with his korban. This is what he meant when he said, says a man or a woman when they do any of the chataim of a person, and they shall confess their sin that they did. Oh, here comes the havminas. In the Mechilta, it says in the explanation of this pasuk, Lefish Nemar, once it says V'hisvada asher chata, that he should confess on what he sinned. Yisvada al chet asher chata aleha. Oh, sorry, this is not the havminas yet. Al hachatas kashe hi kayemes lo mishinish chata in b'mashma shenizvada hayachid el al bias hamikdash. Lefish pasuk zeh klomar amru yisala asher chata aleha nemar b'parshas vayikra b'matami mikdash v'kadashav. Umashniskar imo kamosha kavar bi'arnu. Oh, here's what I want to get to. Lefikach amar kam v'mechada she'anu lo haynu lamedim min hapasuk hazeh ela chiyu viduet lematame mikdash. So from the pasuk, the Mechilta is saying that from the pasuk, you would only learn from here that you have to do vidui on being matame the mikdash. Minayin at marbe shar kol mitzvos. How do you know you have to do vidui on all the other mitzvos? Amar, it says daber el bnei Yisrael v'hisvadu. Uminayin af misos ukrisos. How do you know that you do vidui on things that are chayiv misa and kares? Amar chatasem or chatasam, kol chatasam, l'rabos mitzvos los aseh, kiyasu l'rabos mitzvos aseh. V'sham nemar od mikol chatos adam mimash beino levein chavero al hagenevos v'al hagzeos v'al lashon hara limol ma'al laharbos. L'rabos hanishba b'shem l'sheker v'amakalal v'ashma hanefesh l'rabos kol chayav misos sheyizvadu. Okay, yachol. So in other words, it has to learn out all these other mitzvos as being part of vidui through a ribui. Okay, yachol av haneheragin al pizomimin lo marti elav ashma hanefeshahi klomar she'eno chayav l'hizvados im yada she'en bo chet ela heidu alav sheker. So this is another weird havmina. You might think that if you are a victim of Eidim Zomamin, right? So let's say you get convicted. You get convicted for something that you know you didn't do. So you might think you have to confess. Kamash Molan, you don't. Okay. Okay. More weird havmiyas. I don't know where I am on the screen. I'm just reading here. What was that?
Sorry, what would you be confessing about if you know you didn't do it?
So
You'd be confessing you didn't do it?
What would you be confessing about, or why would you do it?
What would you be confessing?
So let's say I set you up. Let's say like Isaac and I report to Beis Din that you killed somebody, okay? And you know you didn't, and we just were really good 8-day sheker, right? So you get convicted and you're put on trial, and you get your Gemara Din is there and your Chayiv Misa, and you're being led out to the Skila block, or sorry, not the Skila block, the Hereg block. So what Beis Din will tell you to do at that time is, that's the time when an ordinary person would say vidui. So the Rambam saying you might have to do vidui on murdering someone even though you didn't do it. Kamash Milan, you don't have to do that vidui.
What kind of a havamina is that you would
yeah,
have to...
exactly, right? Yeah. So I'll partially address that in a second.
I'm just saying, if I'm convincing, so if I'm doing Eidim Zomamin, I'm going to do it all the way. I'm going to convince even the person who's being accused that he killed someone.
Right. Ulfish nemar hatzivu hazeh klomar v'hizvado im chiyuv hakorban shahaya ola b'datenu she'en havidui levado mitzvah b'fnei atzma elahu minisaf. I never know how to pronounce it. Nispache hakorban. So since vidui is presented in the context of korbanos, you might think that it's not its own mitzvah, but they only do it with a korban. Lefikach hutzruchu levayer as zeh b'mechota b'lashon zeh. And that's why it says here like this. So you might think that you only do vidui at a time when you bring a korban. How do you know that you do vidui even when you don't bring a korban? Amar daber el bnei Yisrael v'hizvadu. In b'mashma vidui ela ba'aretz. You might think you only have to do vidui in Eretz Yisrael. Okay. Minayin af begalus. How do you know that you only do vidui in galus? Amar v'hizvadu as avonam as avonavasam. It says you shall confess your sin and the sin of their sin and the sin of their father. V'chein Daniel omer lecha Adonai hatzedakah v'lanu boshes panim. Hinen nisbar mikol mashis karnashi vidui mito bifnei atmo chova al hachote al eze chet shachata bein ba'aretz bein b'chutz la'aretz bein shevi korban bein shelevi korban chayav lizvados commotion shamar yis ala vizvado es chatas mesher asu. Okay, so there's more in this, but so the point that Rabbi Zucker makes in this is he says like this. He says, if you think that according to the Rambam that the mitzvah is tshuva, so then how do any of these havaminas make sense? Certainly there's no, so in other words like this, Rambam definitely holds that tshuva and vidui go together. Vidui is nothing without tshuva, okay? And everything he says about, the mitzvah is presupposing tshuva. So if you're going to say that the mitzvah is tshuva, how could you possibly think that you're only chayiv in teshuva in Eretz Yisrael, but not outside of Eretz Yisrael, or you're only chayiv in tshuva on being matame the mikdash, but not on all other mitzvahs, or you're only chayiv tshuva on mitzvahs with a korban and not without a korban, But if you hold that the mitzvah is vidui, okay, and vidui is to make a proclamation, so then there's at least room for all these havaminas, and Rabbi Zucker goes on to define them. So that answers your question, Moshe, of like what kind of a havamina is it that you would confess to something that you don't that you didn't do. So if your presupposition is that the mitzvah is to do tshuva, so then it'd be obviously absurd to think that you have to do tshuva on a chet that you didn't do. But if the mitzvah is to make a verbal proclamation, so then there's room for havaminas that you would or wouldn't have to make a certain verbal proclamation in certain circumstances. For example, maybe and this is more of a philosophical answer, but I'm just giving a philosophical basis for the halachic havamina. Since the whole concept of misos beistin is as a deterrent for Klal Yisrael, and the execution is done in a public way by the two Eidim, with beistin. So then you might think that not for the sake of tshuva, but for the sake of rectifying the pagam done by the instance of a chet in Klal Yisrael, then you have to make this verbal proclamation, even though you didn't do it. So there's. I'm not defining it precisely, but there is room for havaminas once you realize that the mitzvah is vidui and not tshuva. So that at least. So
what would your proclamation be then, if you didn't do it? What would you say?
Good question. Meaning, would you still have to say the phrase and specify the sin, or is that like a vidui sheker, or do you have a matir to say it because al pi din, then you sinned, right? Like the verdict was that you did this sin. So halachically, then you are a chayev misa al ritzicha, good question. I don't know the answer to that. I wonder if I feel like that's the type of question that the Minchas Chinuch would take up on this. I haven't checked though.
And wouldn't it be better to not confess and then maybe create doubt about the Eidim, about you and Isaac, if maybe they were lying?
I don't know. I actually don't know about that. I mean, I feel like if you asked Socrates, then maybe he would say that like maybe that does more harm to the system, and even though that they're wrong, then like this is how the system played out because they made it through all of the drishas and the chakiros. I'm not sure. That's partially a halachic question and partially a philosophical question. Yeah. Okay, so just before we stop, let's just look where the list ended here. Yeah, so you see beyond this is more korbanos. Now, the reason why vidui is here is because you see that this is in korbanos that have to do with chet, but it is interesting that this is strictly speaking not a korban dependent mitzvah, as we see from the fact that you say vidui even on non-korbanos chatayim. So it is interesting that he classifies it here and not say like in the first grouping of mitzvahs, which has to do with Yesodei Torah, like he does in Hilchos Tshuva. So interesting to note. Alrighty, so let's stop here for today and plan to resume with 74 next week. Alrighty, have a good day, everybody.
Thank you.
See you later.